The Alldus podcast is brought to you by Alldus International, supplying your expert AI and digital transformation staffing needs across the US and Europe. Today, you are listening to our AI in Action series, where leading minds in AI from across the world share their story, success, and advice. AI in Action cuts through the hype and explores the true impact of artificial intelligence in our world today.
You're listening to AI in Action. I'm your host, JP Valentine. Our guest today is Ryan Johnson. Ryan is the Senior Director of Data and AI at GoGuardian. Ryan, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, JP.
So Ryan, let's start with yourself, please, as we do with all of our guests. Could you give us a bit of an overview of your background in technology and your journey from where you got started, some of the roles you've held along the way, and what's led you to where you are today as the Senior Director of Data and AI for GoGuardian?
Well, I think of myself as a scientist first and foremost. So my background, my PhD training was in neuroscience, and I had some fellowships after that at places like the Mind Institute at University of California, Davis. It was really there where I started working with really massive data sets. In that case, it was MRI data from children with autism. This was around 2011, and data science it was emerging as a field and a title. And so the skills I picked up there, again, working with massive data sets, writing code, led to the opportunity to transition to private industry. And for better or worse, I pretty quickly found myself, within a year of transitioning private industry, of leading teams of other analysts, scientists, and eventually engineers. And so I worked for a manufacturing company called Big Ass Solutions, or Big Ass Fans. They built a lot of internet connected devices, and that was really fun. Did a couple other roles after that, but really for the past 5 years now, I've been at the EdTech company GoGuardian. I started as the second member of their data scientist team, lucky enough to lead that group and grow it. I ended up growing their business intelligence team there and built out their data engineering team as well.
Amazing. Thank you so much for the background. We'll jump into your role and your journey within the company in a moment, but I want to set the stage for our audience listening. Tell us all about GoGuardian, first of all, who you are, what you do, mission of the business.
Sure. So GoGuardian is an EdTech company. It's been a really fun journey. I started the company, I was around employee number 110, somewhere around there. We're now up in the 800s, 900s, somewhere around there. Like I said, I've been there 5 years, so it's been a really fast, fun ride. We really cover a lot of varying needs that schools may have. We really started on one side of the spectrum where we provided filtering solutions for schools, helping schools comply with federal laws around child protection from explicit content. But as the company has grown and expanded and through some acquisitions, we're really now also in the learning space where we're helping schools assessing learning of students and assembling content for instruction. And I think we're used by something like over 25 million students, and that number is probably a little bit old at this point. And that's tens of thousands of schools, districts, and it's really fun to be a part of something that's making a positive difference. And our CEO has a saying that I really love. I love it every time he says this, that education is the single greatest leverage point for improving society. And that really is behind what GoGuardian is trying to do.
Amazing. So you've set the stage nicely. So I want to jump straight into your role then. Senior Director of Data and AI. You've obviously grown with the organization. You've been heavily involved in building out that function. But can you describe the current version of what your role is and what your team does on a day-to-day basis? What are you guys responsible for?
So I help the data science and data engineering teams at this point. What they're responsible for, I'll start with data engineering because it's often overlooked and underinvested in by companies. And it's actually, I think, the beginning of where you build a great data capability. So our data engineering team, I think of their responsibilities as building a beautiful library of data. And so they build all the pipelines that collect data from all across the organization and bring that data together and organize it and structure it and curate it in a way that makes it ready for being put to use. And that sort of transitions to the data science team, and their responsibility is putting that data to use in various different ways. Primarily, I'd say we've been focused on putting that data to use for our customers. So I think we have about, last time I counted, 12 ML algorithms in production software serving, I know we're at billions of inferences per day. So these are features that our customers directly interact with, such as our Beacon software, which actually checks for signs of suicidal ideation, suicidal intent in students, and lets counselors and other school officials be aware of such things. So data science builds tools and features that put this data to use for our customers, but also our data science team serves some internal needs as well, helping our product team understand signs of churn in a product, helping our finance team forecast the future a little bit. So both those teams work together to really take all the data we have and derive value from it.
So Ryan, you talked about the evolution of GoGuardian, how it started as one suite of services and it's now evolved into more L&D. Can you give us a bit more of a detailed description of what's available for GoGuardian users right now? Who are your customers and how are they interacting with the platform?
I love the question, who are our customers? Because that really tells a lot of the story of the company. And for a while, we had a habit of naming our products after the customer we were building this for. So our first and probably still largest product is called GoGuardian, and that's aimed at school IT administrators. And that, like I said, was where we started with filtering and blocking malicious sites, helping IT administrators make sure that kids were safe to use the internet, because the internet's an amazing tool for learning, but it also can be a very scary place. And that was really the heart of the problem we were trying to solve with admin. Then developed a teacher product, which this is much more about teachers administering use of devices in their classroom. I know it's foreign to me thinking about my time in elementary school and middle school and high school, but these days teachers are facing a field of laptops in most of their classrooms. And so helping teachers have a more sort of direct input as to what's going on in those laptops in their classroom was the next step in our evolution. And then we made some really rapid strides, and we acquired a few companies, one of which is called Pear Deck. And Pear Deck is all about making really fun and interactive presentations that students can make, teachers can make and share. And like I said, really interact on these presentations and demonstrate learning, answer questions, etc. And that foray into assessment, I'd say, has been instruction and assessment. That's been the theme going forward. We have a product called Edulastic, which is really powerful and actually really widely used for administering assessments to students and understanding how students are performing. And we also have a product called TutorMe, which is helping students access the tutoring they need. And without giving too much away, there's a lot of really exciting stuff still coming from the company in the learning and instruction field, because really GoGuardian has realized we really want to understand more about how students learn, and importantly, how we can improve that process. And that's really an area we're diving deep into now.
You are listening to the Alldus podcast. When you're looking to scale your team, or if you are interested in showcasing your company in a future episode, reach out today. Or if you're in the market for a new role, visit our website to view open positions, www.alldus.com.
Talk to us a bit more then about the team and the day-to-day is working at GoGuardian. Help our audience, many of whom are data professionals, look behind the scenes from the various positions that exist, a typical project life cycle, and just what culture of your squad is like.
I think the team is at a really interesting position because we're not a small 4-person data science team, which we were for several years, but we're also not large tech company size data team, but we're at this transition where there's going to be more roles and more sort of specialization. But for the most part, right now, it's still 2 roles, data scientists and data engineers. And the data engineering group really had to start, I think it's fair to say start from scratch. We have a great set of back-end engineers and software engineers, of course, building great products on the back end, but that's not what is needed for advanced analytics. So our data engineering team really had to start from scratch and build all the infrastructure for our analytic environment. And that meant a lot of infrastructure design and iteration. I think we're on version 3 of our overall analytics infrastructure. And thankfully, we're sort of able to take a breath now from building. And what I'm seeing and I'm really loving is the data engineers really becoming more stakeholder focused, where they're going to data science, they're going to business intelligence, they're going to research teams, they're going to marketing and saying, what do you need? You need this data here, you need it how, when do you need it? And asking those kinds of questions and really just making those transformations and tweaks that make all these data consumers make their job much, much easier. And so I love seeing that transformation of our data engineering team. And I know there's a lot of excitement amongst that team of getting to work with stakeholders a lot more. So that's data engineering. Data science is also really on this interesting edge where in the past, it's been a small, nimble team of data scientists who didn't have data engineering support. And so the role was really about doing what we can to get a data product out in production and being used by external stakeholders or internal stakeholders. But these days, as the team has expanded and they've gotten that data engineering support, we're really starting to dig deep into things like ML operations. How do we deploy these algorithms in a way that they can constantly improve? How do we build those reliable data pipelines to feed these algorithms? Again, there's a real data engineering flavor to this, but the data science team is really in that sort of next step of doing what they can to get something out there to really thinking hard about what's the best solution possible. How do we really make the biggest impact? How do we work with our product teams and our data engineering team to really design the right solution?
So, Ron, you've taken us up to today from the journey at GoGuardian. I want to spend a bit of time now looking ahead because you've obviously been with the business now since, I believe, April of 2018. And a lot has changed both in the e-learning space over that 5 years, but in particular at GoGuardian. As you look ahead now and you look at the next chapter for GoGuardian, what are some of the things you're most excited about to see evolve in the business? I know you've already touched on there's some very recent exciting announcements which we can't cover in too much detail now, but probably by the time this goes live, there'll be some new announcements. But more broadly speaking, when you look at the project roadmap, the journey ahead for GoGuardian, what are some of the things that you're most excited about?
Well, I can sort of think of two things come to mind. And one of them is not necessarily, it's not something we're working on in the future because we're sort of wrapping up this project, but I think its value is very forward looking. And so I'll touch briefly on that. And that's our anonymized data infrastructure. Back in 2020, GoGuardian, and this was really exciting news to me, we hired a head of privacy. And as someone in charge of deriving value from data, you almost think that would be a competitive relationship or a challenging relationship, but instead it wasn't. This gentleman's name is Teddy, and he's fantastic. And we instantly really partnered and started thinking about, okay, we want to do all these things with data. We really want to improve the educational experience, but this is a sensitive topic. And there's a lot of risk here, and we want to do this right. So Teddy and I collaborated, and the data engineering team really drove this home and delivered so that our entire analytics infrastructure is fully anonymized. Any data that's coming from the applications, which has to have some PII in it, because that's the end users need that PII, that's all handled through various means, including hashing and salting, before it enters the analytics environment. So our researchers, our analysts, and our scientists, they're working with fully anonymized data. And I'm pretty confident saying that GoGuardian is probably a leader there. I don't think that's an investment a lot of EdTech companies have made yet. But it was important to me, and it was important to Teddy, and it was important to our teams that we really do everything we can to protect student privacy. And so seeing that large initiative wrapped up in a bow has been wonderful. And I'm really excited to see how we'll be able to accomplish our vision, but do so in a way that emphasizes student privacy. So that's what I mean by forward-looking. If I think about a second projects I'm excited about that really are still just in their infancy, it goes back to that, what I mentioned, that GoGuardian really wants to understand how students learn and how we can improve that process. And that's been a really fun field to dive into. I've been thinking about it a lot lately because I've been reading all this past literature, and it's really struck me how education is not new to predictive algorithms. There's decades of background in tutoring automation, item response theory, knowledge tracing. That again goes back decades. And so educational experts they've known that these kind of tools are going to be really helpful. But it's sort of felt like the power of those tools has been lacking. The best analogy I can think of is the electric cars. We've known for a really long time that an electric engine has a lot of benefits over the internal combustion engine, but the tools just weren't there to really make that a reality. And now they are. And so now we're seeing this big pivot where it's becoming very clear that electric vehicles are really the future. And I think the same thing has happened in education. We've known that predictive algorithms and quantitative assessment and prediction can be really helpful for education, but the power just hasn't been there. But within the past 5 years, we've seen a transformation and the power is there now. And so GoGuardian really wants to be, and I think we're well positioned to do this, be a leader there where we really take advantage of these new tools and really deliver value to educators.
So Ryan, final question for me then, as somebody who's been with GoGuardian for coming up on 5 years now and has been instrumental in building and scaling the platform, particularly on the data side, you've played a fundamental role in building out the data team and training and developing people. So when you think of the growth stages that have happened at GoGuardian and the conversations you've had with prospective candidates, when you've been actively hiring and when you've been building the team, what was it that you said to candidates about GoGuardian and its mission that got them excited enough to join you guys over some of the other great companies hiring?
Yeah, and we've been very lucky and fortunate there to really be able to hire really exceptional candidates that we were convinced would go to one of the major tech companies, but chose GoGuardian instead. And I think one of the easiest things for people to latch onto is that we really are trying to improve the educational experience. That is what we're working towards every day. And every single one of us listening to this knows that we're here because of some teacher or some educational experience. Every doctor, scientist, lawyer, engineer, they exist because of teachers and educators. And having the opportunity to work at a company that wants to make educators' lives easier, make students have a better and more effective experience in an educational setting, that's really appealing to people. And it's appealing to me, and it's why I've been here for 5 years. So that really helps us recruit the talent. But I will say the other thing that seems really specific to the team, and we hear this a lot, is the team culture. We really, I hope, have developed a team where leadership is really a servant. Leadership is there to help. And we really emphasize a lot of transparency. I try and tell my team, I'll tell you everything I possibly can, as long as it won't get me fired. And just really growing that trust and through transparency has really developed a really great culture on the team.
Ryan, thank you so much for coming on today and talking to us. It was great to learn about your own background and your journey, and in particular, your journey at GoGuardian, having grown and built out an amazing data team. And the space as a whole is very interesting. You know, digital transformation of the education setting is an exciting one, which has huge benefits. And obviously, a lot of exciting announcements to come in the months from now. We'll stay tuned. We'll watch closely with your continued success, and we look forward to having you back on the show in the near future.
Well, thanks, JP. It was a real pleasure. I look forward to coming back on in the future.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Alldus podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review. We are available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and any Android podcast of choice. You can also head over to our website, www.alldus.com, to listen to more podcasts, view our open roles, and stay up to date with industry news. Thanks for listening, and stay tuned for more great episodes coming very soon.